currently a police chase that is taking place there in Southern California. Very limited details at this time. We want to make sure that we're taking you out to the very latest as we can see it. And so I'm going to put this up on the screen. We'll see if we can listen in here, if we're getting any coverage from some of our partners there at Fox 11 in Southern California. But things are certainly heating up there. Let's see if we can listen in. All right, it doesn't appear that they are currently on air with any of this coverage of this police pursuit. So what we're going to do here on Live Now from Fox is really just kind of take and watch this feed as it's happening. And so right now, what we're seeing there clearly is that this is happening in the Southeast Los Angeles neighborhood. This is currently near South Main Street as well, with that person there taking a left turn at South Pedro. So we'll keep an eye on it right here. We have yet another feed as well. We might switch over to that one. And so we're going to switch gears here and show you this alternate version that we have there. Again, this police chase currently underway in Southern California. It does appear to be a small black or dark gray hatchback vehicle. Right now, the chopper is not quite close enough for us to really make out some of those other specific details. But as you can see, LAPD and some of those other officers tailing this car as this is underway in a Southeast Los Angeles neighborhood. So we're going to work on continuing to confirm some of these details about where this is happening and possibly where or why this person is currently on the run. So we did get an update as well from our partners there at Fox 11 in Los Angeles. This just breaking, coming into our newsroom now. They say that police chase is currently underway involving a possible murder suspect near East Los Angeles. Again, very limited details, saying that Sky Fox is currently, as you can tell, over the scene, leading these authorities on a chase there this afternoon. And so with the time here on the East Coast quickly approaching the 7 o'clock hour, just before 4 p.m. there in LA, getting into that time frame really where traffic is going to start picking up intensely. Those folks who are commuting on their evening commute, leaving work, as you can see, it appears that that's even what's happening now. Sharp right turn there in front of traffic. And right now, we haven't seen this chase get up to, as we've been monitoring it, those speeds, right? It's a lot about the speed when it comes to these police chases, especially in Southern California. But because this has mostly been, as we've been watching it, on some of those surface level streets, the highest I've seen that speedometer get up to is around 70 miles per hour. Quite a hazy day there as well in LA, as you can tell from this image from the chopper. Now, I will warn you, as Sky Fox, dangerous turn, trying to merge into traffic, go across the street, and there are pedestrians crossing as well. So decided to make a pretty hard left turn. As you can see, Sky Fox, though, is getting quite some distance at this point from this police chase and from that car. Again, from what we could see, it was a small black or dark gray hatchback that was leading police on this chase. What we need to be on the lookout here, though, for as well, is that if Sky Fox unfortunately gets too far from where this chase is happening, we would lose our image. And again, that car making another left turn, sort of going in a box at this point. We've seen it take this exact same route, but those officers still behind, possibly trying to lose them. As you can see, we could see there, they briefly stopped. But this is a possible murder suspect. So what we're going to do is continue on here watching this. There's no sound or that we're able to hear right now as our partners there at Fox 11 are not currently on the air with it. If they do get on the air, we'll be able to bring you some of their local coverage of what we're seeing here, but very preliminary, new and preliminary details coming out at this moment. All right, so if you're just now joining us here on Live Now from Fox, I'm your host, Christina Evans. We are in a new hour here on Live Now, but we're tracking this new video footage that we now have via Skyfox coming to us out of the Los Angeles area. Our partners there at Fox 11 saying that this police chase that you're watching there on your screen currently underway involving a possible murder suspect. And as you can see, this is getting pretty interesting here as this suspect is now leaving the streets there of LA and entering the freeways. And as you know, LA's freeways can get quite clogged at this time of day. It is just after the 4 o'clock hour there on the West Coast, prime time for some of that evening commute traffic to begin picking up. And so this chase began in East Los Angeles, but we're watching here as they're on the 110, saying that this is heading in the southern direction. And so we're just going to keep watching it here. We've seen this small dark gray or black hatchback driving and weaving in and out of lanes while they were on some of those surface streets, making quite dangerous turns at different lights, trying to evade those officers. But even as we can see here, entering the 110 freeway, just a few moments ago, we were able to see the trail of officers still following behind this suspect. And so as Skyfox is continuing to try to track this, as those speeds are getting very high, I'm not sure how accurate, as we were seeing it go up to nearly 200 miles an hour, I'm not sure how accurate that is. This could be because Skyfox is quite some distance from that car. And that being said, it's going to make it more difficult for them to track. And you can even see it here on your screen. As Skyfox is getting further and further away, the haziness of Los Angeles and the air there is making it hard to track and clearly see the suspect as they try to evade some of those police. And so we'll keep watching here as long as we have a clear shot of this chase as it's ongoing. But it can be difficult because the helicopter can only move so fast. They also have to monitor others in the area because the police chopper is also likely in the air. Let's see if we're able to hear in from any of our partners there in Los Angeles.
For the top, that is for the carpool, the express lanes. Regular traffic goes down below. Perhaps that driver there in that car, the murder suspect, is not familiar with the freeways. It can be a little freaky if you're not sure why you're going above the traffic there. So perhaps that person thought they would get caught up. Or there's also the 105 freeway there. It looks to me like that person might be exiting to the 105 freeway, which that person could go then east or westbound on that freeway. We've talked about people going to areas that are familiar to them, driving to neighborhoods that are familiar to them. So not sure the moves of this person. This pursuit has been going on since we've been following it in the South LA area. It has been on surface streets. Just minutes ago, this driver went on to the freeway there, and you can see the police are right there on that suspect. A murder suspect. It's a whole different kind of pursuit there and want. Let's bring in police specialist Dennis Zine. So Dennis, I apologize there. My audio there picking up on my cell phone here as I'm covering this as well. Dennis, you've been a police officer for a long time, now a reserve officer. As you see this one, you hear murder suspect. You think what if you're following this vehicle in an LAPD car?
Well, Christine, this is one of those highly dangerous pursuits with a 187, a murder suspect, apparently under surveillance by detectives. They tried to initially, I believe, make a stop, and the pursuit was on. So now they're down in the Harbor Division. They've gone on and off the freeway for a bit, so this is a highly dangerous situation. If he's wanted for 187 or murder, there's no telling what the individual is going to do. Commuter time, it's a little after 4. We know the traffic is going to get more and more congested, so you've got all the dangerous components here, and it's a very dangerous pursuit with a fleeing possible murder suspect.
So 4 o'clock, we think of that kind of being the start of rush hour. I always say to people in LA, if you got to be anywhere of any distance, leave by 3:30. So not surprising to see traffic already starting there. That driver taking those express lanes from time to time, we know those are open to those that are carpool or those EV stickers for the moment. Much more open from time to time compared to the other lanes to the right. Dennis, that allows that driver to keep on going with not as much traffic there.
Exactly, and the suspect will utilize that to their advantage. The ground units, and they will not normally have motorcycle officers involved in pursuits such as this, just because of the danger to the motor officer and the public. So they're using the chopper to keep observation. They're going to be overhead and then broadcasting to the units, but then the units on the ground, on the freeway in pursuit, they need to be very cautious. They don't want to create more hazards to the motoring public that are probably going home from work or home from school. So there's a lot of dangerous factors involved. But when you're chasing a fleeing felon, a possible 187, a murder suspect, that is the highest priority. They want to obviously take that individual into custody. And if in fact they are involved in that type of crime, they don't really care what they do, because they know they've already committed the ultimate crime, a murder, and they know what they're wanted for. So obviously this will be an extremely dangerous pursuit at a terrible hour, a little after 4 o'clock on a weekday.
And Dennis, we are showing our viewers video from earlier. Look how dangerous that pursuit has been on surface streets there in the South LA area. Look at the way that driver maneuvers around cars, pedestrians, a man in a wheelchair there in the crosswalk, and the speeds there when you can see it's a lot of heavy traffic there on those surface streets. So if you think this freeway pursuit is kind of wide open, problem-free, look at what happened here earlier on those surface streets, and you see this is a suspect who is really trying to get away from police.
Absolutely. So the highest degree of danger for the motoring public, a great degree of danger for the officers that are in pursuit, and then negotiating those police cars to make sure that they don't get in collision and harm an injured individual, an innocent individual, a motorist, a pedestrian, a bicycle rider, etc. So there's a lot of weighing on the officers' shoulders that are in these pursuits, a lot of responsibility. But an individual who's fleeing, if he is in fact a murder suspect and he knows what he did, then obviously this is minor to him as far as getting away. If someone is then injured along that path, well, he doesn't really too much care about that, since if in fact he's murdered someone, which is prompted this pursuit in the first place.
So talk about the insight you have, having been with the LAPD for many years. You had mentioned that detectives were on this one. So are you saying detectives were following leads and then the pursuit started?
Apparently, apparently, intelligence information is that there were observations. They try to seek out these murder suspects, and they do surveillance. And then, if they can identify, then they try to make the move. And in fact, in this particular case, if this is in fact a murder suspect who was under some kind of investigation, and they were observing activities, and then he obviously saw something and took off, and away the pursuit went. They called in for the black and whites. But when they're doing their intelligence gathering, the investigations, and I've worked that section before, where you're doing basic cover work to try and put the elements together, and if this is the right suspect, etc. And then once you are capable of making that, when you have enough resources, then you make that move. But when you talk about my years with the department, I joined in 1968. So I've been with them continuously since 1968. And my son's now a captain with the organization, so well aware of the responsibilities and the hazards, and obviously the investigations get more intense. DNA, which we didn't have back in 1968, so there's a lot of changes, but the technology of a pursuit is the most dangerous part when you're fleeing and jeopardizing all the folks, the pedestrians, the bicyclists. On the freeway, it's less hazardous because all you have is the cars and trucks to contend with, even though that's hazardous. But then you eliminate the school children and the people walking and jogging, et cetera. So it's the safest environment if you have to get in the pursuit, freeway versus surface street.
And everyone's going the same direction at a relatively high rate of speed here that is higher than obviously the traffic next to this driver. We have been watching this pursuit now for, I wouldn't say a half hour yet, but it's been about that time there. So I can't help but note, Dennis, as we watch this, you say detectives were on this one, then black and whites called in. We lost 3 police officers in Pennsylvania yesterday, 2 more in critical condition, and they were detectives there investigating a domestic violence matter. So the thought of detective work being somebody sitting in an office looking at paperwork and looking on their computer is a much different perspective when you think of what happened in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. When you're pushing the paper and you're doing the reports and you're doing the follow-up investigations and interviewing witnesses, making telephonic inquiries, that's one issue. But then if you're then focusing in on an individual and that suspect and you go under surveillance with that, and then all of a sudden we verified this is the suspect, we want to stop, we want to interrogate, we want to verify. So you obviously want to verify, and you can do that with fingerprints, but you can't do that until you get the individual in custody, and you go from there. So while the detective work is a lot of painstaking effort, you have a lot of reports to go through, a lot of investigation, a lot of analysis with Scientific Investigation Division. There's a lot because people's freedom is very important, and we don't want to arrest the wrong people. We want to arrest the people who've committed these crimes. So there's a lot of investigation, and once they get that case and they believe this is the individual beyond a reasonable doubt, then they take that effort to take them into custody. They get booked, and then we go through the processing and find out if they are. Then it goes to trial, goes to court, and we find out what happens in the court proceedings. But there's a lot of detective work that takes place. The officers in the black and whites, the patrol units, they handle all those 911 calls, excuse me, all those calls for service. But when it comes to the investigation, those detectives have that responsibility. And I will honestly say we don't have enough police officers on the streets. We don't have enough detectives to do the massive amount of work that it takes in a city this size. And hopefully we can recruit more personnel to law enforcement to take care of that. But there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of investigations, a lot of victims that want to see justice, and you can't get justice until you find out who the perpetrators are and the circumstances. And then you got the court system to deal with. So we know we have a great district attorney, and the district attorney is doing a wonderful job, but it's pieces of the criminal justice system that all have to work together. And then the ultimate is to have justice prevail in the community where justice serves for everyone's benefit, and that's the key.
Oh, Dennis, let's take a look here. So we are watching this pursuit here on the 110 freeway southbound, a murder suspect here. You can see this suspect now, this driver, getting off of the freeway now onto surface streets, perhaps in the San Pedro area, unless they're making some kind of other freeway connection. We'll see in just a second here. This is, again, a murder suspect, LAPD on this one. Our viewers are watching on Fox 11 Plus, our sister station, Channel 13. We've got sports programming on Fox 11, but we're following this on the web as well, foxla.com. You can see this pursuit is well underway at very high speeds. Let's try to get a feel for where this suspect is going here in the San Pedro area after having been on the 110 southbound from South LA, Southeast LA, as we continue to follow this here. Oh, interesting moves there. Now, we saw a lot of strange moves by this driver on surface streets. Oh, is this the wrong direction? My goodness, very dangerous. Wrong direction, those semis there. Wow, that's really dangerous now. Not sure if the suspect knew what they were doing or where they were going. Very scary for all of those other motorists there as this car is barreling toward them. They have no idea what's going on. Okay, at least now we are back going the right direction. But Dennis, you see how scary it is and how much this driver is doing to get away from police at all costs.
Absolutely, and this is the most dangerous individual, and if this individual has committed the heinous crime of murder, then anything he or she can do, they will do to try and escape arrest, apprehension by the officers. And remember, these officers have to make sure that they don't get into a collision with an innocent motorist while they're chasing this individual, while the individual who's fleeing does whatever he or she wants to do, where the officers have to maintain control of their vehicles to make sure that an individual is not harmed by their actions. That's a critical concern. So they've got a lot of responsibility when they're in pursuit. In this particular case, as we see this driver, and commend those units. They're right behind him now, as we'll see this continuation pursuit. But those officers go through great training at the LAPD course up in Granada Hills, where they have the field where they do the pursuit training, and it's a very dangerous situation when you get in pursuit, not only for the officers but for the general public. And as far as the perpetrator, the suspect, he or she doesn't really care. They just want to escape, and they don't care what happens in the process.
Dennis, we're looking at a closer shot of the vehicle, the bumper. They're obviously experiencing some kind of damage to it. Not sure how or when that happened. I didn't see any kind of accident during our coverage. Perhaps going just, the crazy routes this guy's going, the bumper caused... it was hit in some fashion. All right, so we're back on the 110 freeway in the Wilmington area. Now we are northbound, and it makes me wonder if this suspect was trying to get back to an area that is more familiar to him or her. They had been going southbound for a long period of time out of the South LA, Southeast LA area, and now back the other direction, going back towards that same direction at those high rates of speed with that bumper damage. I'm not sure if maybe our assignment team had seen something happen where we saw bumper damage, or maybe I just am now noticing. There we go. Wow, that's about to come off right there. We are not saying this is a stolen vehicle. No word on that. Just a murder suspect that was under investigation by LAPD detectives, and something triggered this driver to take off. Are these speeds for real? 100 miles per hour? That is terrifying. Dennis Zine, police specialist, as you watch this.
Absolutely extremely dangerous for the suspect who's fleeing. You see the bumper's going to fall off in a few minutes. But as far as the speed, over 100 miles an hour, the air units, and I know Fox 11's over along with the police air unit, and they're going to keep track of this. Without that helicopter, it would really be difficult for these officers to continue a pursuit. And I know a lot of people say they're expensive, the helicopter operations, but they're critical in this type of situation. If you don't have that helicopter over scene, you're not going to be able to keep up with this individual. And again, you don't want to jeopardize the public, and that's why the air units are so critical when you have a situation like this. And thank goodness they were on the scene. And then Fox 11, and what the media does is they set the pace with the police chopper, so they all in coordination, all in communication, so they can be safe while they're covering this for the law enforcement officers as well as for the public, as we see on Fox 11 here on Fox 13. So what we have right now is the fleeing 187, a murder suspect in this car. Whether it's a stolen car or not, we haven't determined that as of this point. But we know the bumper's going to fly off any minute now just because of the velocity of that vehicle, and whatever tweaked that left part of the bumper, that's now come loose, and it's just hanging on by threads until that flies up. And then we don't want it to fly into a police car, because if that hits the windshield, then we could have some serious damage from that. But again, this driver doesn't care about anything except to escape, to get away, and to fleeing, and 100+ miles an hour, and they just don't care about the public safety at all.
Well, Dennis, as I'm looking at that bumper, I'm terrified for every driver that has to encounter that at a high rate of speed on the freeway. You see that laying in the road, that's very dangerous. I came across something like that myself the other day, where cars come to a complete stop suddenly because you have this piece in the middle of the freeway. So not only do we worry about that for other motorists, but you're right, those police officers that are following behind. So as we watch this here, as we watch this driver fleeing police now in the Compton area at 110 freeway there, let's talk about what we saw earlier where the driver went the wrong way. Let's cue up that video right there. Look at that driver trying to get away from police in the San Pedro area. Right there, you're going to see wrong way. Oh, my gosh. You see those semi-trucks there. Terrifying to think of a car speeding towards you the wrong direction. For every motorist there, uh-oh, can you imagine seeing that? What to do there? Luckily, nobody got hurt there. You can see the bumper has the damage already in that spot there. I'm just wondering about the police cars behind them. That shot was fairly tight. We didn't see their reaction as they also had to weave through. Okay, the truck. Oh, that truck hit the bumper there. Okay, watch here. Watch here. Did that truck try to bring that to a stop? There you go. That bumper damage right there. Okay.
That's where it started.
Good news. Look at the tires. Look at the tires. We understand the spike strip was put out and put on the freeway. It's going to affect those tires in some fashion and perhaps bring that to a close. But Dennis, as we watch, okay, there you go. He's losing control, right, Dennis?
Yep. Well, I don't know when they did the spike strip, but thank goodness they did it, and those spike strips are very, very effective. And it's not uncommon for them to drive on the flat tires onto the rims, so it doesn't mean they have to stop, but hopefully the individual will, and if there's a foot pursuit, then we've got sufficient units there along with the air units overhead. So I think this should come to end real quick as we see the car's not going to be continuing movement on that freeway.
Well, you know what?
All the traffic they have to contend with.
Dennis, that driver was going, it seemed to me, on the shoulder of the freeway there. Perhaps that's how police were able to fling that spike strip out there and not affect other motorists there. All right, so the driver exiting the freeway at these speeds here. Look at that tire. It's going right there. But those speeds now are much, there you go. Okay, but you say, Dennis, they can go on those rims.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will. But as far as the spike strip, the deployment of that is a critical deployment. The officers have to maintain their concealment so the individual doesn't run into them. So there's a lot. There goes the tires go on of the left. It seems like the left front tire seems to go on all these pursuits, and they go on the rim. We've seen that a couple of days ago. This individual will continue until they give up. But then sometimes they try to do a carjacking while they jump out and try to get into a car. So people, keep your doors locked, keep your windows up, turn on your air conditioner. Just don't ride with your window open, your arm hanging out the window, because that's why you can become another victim, and they throw you out of the car, take the car, and away they go.
Right.
These people have absolutely no conscience and no civility. It's just they want to get away, and they'll do anything and everything to get away. And if they've committed murder, the most heinous crime, then obviously nothing else really matters to them.
Well,
and we know
the
that from
speeds,
history.
These are the slowest we've seen these speeds in this pursuit. I don't know if it's the car or there's just traffic now as well on the streets here of Compton as we are coming up on 4:30. We call it, you know, the busy hour, commuter hour. You call it rush hour just about here in L.A. So the speeds could be that, or it could be the difficulty of driving the car, or the driver realizing, hey, this pursuit isn't going to go that much longer, being that I've been going 100 miles per hour. Now I'm at 23 miles per hour, and this driver could be thinking how they're going to ditch out. Dennis?
Well, with that tire going off the left front, I don't know what the rest of them, but it's going to be hard to run on a rim. It's very difficult to get any speeds with that rim just gouging into the asphalt on the roadway, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So that will impede the movement, and we see we've got units right behind. So those officers will be ready to engage, and if a foot pursuit takes place, we know that's not uncommon. So as we continue with this slow movement now up to 20 miles an hour, down from where they were before, this is going to bring it down to a slower pace. And meanwhile, the units will converge, because we'll have a number of units that are converging on the scene to get this individual into custody. And if we have a foot pursuit, there'll be sufficient units along with the air unit. So the freedom of this individual is coming to an end real quick.
You have to wonder the backstory here of this being a murder suspect, detectives investigating this one, and then the driver flees, and black and whites, as Dennis told us, were called in. This wasn't something that they were like on a crime scene call, apparently. So you have a murder suspect here on the run. We talk about what lengths they'll go to get away. Other motorists could be in danger of being carjacked, as you talked about. Homeowners, residents in the area who might be completely unsuspecting. And so this is a very dangerous outcome here, possibly. And Dennis, we don't know, does this person have a weapon? And for police, does that make them keep their distance all that much more when this does come to an end? Because we don't know what we're dealing with. Or maybe they do know who they're dealing with.
Well, they won't know for sure until they get the individual out of the vehicle. I mean, there's suspicion. The positive idea is when they get the individual in custody. That's when they'll make for sure what it is. But the individual, if they have a weapon, obviously the officers will be well prepared when they exit the vehicles, and they'll take the position of advantage and do the commands that we've oftentimes heard. Hopefully the individual will comply. If not, there'll be a foot chase, and the foot chase takes place. The officers will be doing that, and we know that's a very dangerous situation, but hopefully we'll have sufficient officers there who can overwhelm this individual. We know that there's a car a couple hundred feet behind the suspect's vehicle. and I'm sure there's additional units behind that. But as long as this pursuit's been going on, it gives them time to muster up the units to get them to deploy to back up, so they'll have enough resources when this comes to an end. And we think there's one person, there may be more than one person in that car. You've got to think of all options and all possibilities to make sure that you can go home at night to your family and the suspect goes to jail where they belong. But this horrendous driving is reflective of an individual who is fleeing at all costs. It doesn't matter what the jeopardy of the public is. They want to get away, and they'll do everything they can to get away. And fortunately, our heroic officers pursue. They do what they need to do. We've got 3 black and whites, and I'm sure there's a supervisor there, so there's a 4th. So we got four black and whites that are in pursuit of this, and they're all prepared as soon as that car makes the stop to give those orders. And if the individual jumps out and takes off, they'll be taken off too. But thanks to the air unit overhead and with the specialized equipment they have on board that chopper, this individual will be taken into custody real quick, because I don't think he's going to be able to go much farther with that rim since the tire's gone and the car's obviously fatigued. So I think we should bring this to an end in the next few minutes, because it just can't continue going this way.
Yeah, and there could be a standoff. We've seen that for hours upon hours as well. Dennis, as we look at this car limp along here, let's take a look at when we believe that spike strip was thrown out there on that freeway. This was the 110 northbound. Let's take a look at that video if we can have that into the queue here. As we're watching LAPD follow this car, 17 miles per hour. Okay, we're watching here. There you go. I saw it right there. Okay. See, Dennis, you see there, traffic was being held. Traffic is held. There's the spike strip right there. So police got ahead of this one, stopped all of that traffic. That driver kept going, bam, got him right there. You saw it fly to the right. Dennis, that was pretty smart thinking on their part.
Well, they're planning ahead.
Yeah.
What that takes is a lot of strategy, a lot of thinking, okay, let's do this, let's do that, let's employ different techniques. And they've got a battery of techniques they can utilize. It's just which one's going to work. In this particular case, whoever was in command of that decided, let's take it down, and we did it. It worked.
Yeah,
so
it did work.
that's the kind of teamwork that it takes, because you've got the primary, secondary units that are in pursuit, and they're concentrating on that. So these are the backup units that come up. Okay, let's try this, and they're communicating with each other. So they've got the communication same place. Okay, we're going to do a spike strip at this location. Stand by, and all of a sudden it's taken care of. And obviously we see while the spike strip did work. The tire's gone, but they're still driving, and the spike strip doesn't reduce. It reduces the speed. Let's say that reduces the speed, but they'll still go on that rim until that rim gives out, and eventually the rim will give out, or they'll give out and say surrender. Or most of the times, if they're this hot of a suspect, they're going to run. They're not going to just get out of the car, put their hands up, and surrender.
Well, that to me, having covered many pursuits with you as well, was really quite amazing to see. So I'm thinking of all the pre-planning of police thinking, okay, this guy's driving what appears to be, if I have this right, on the shoulder of the road. So there are no other motorists on the shoulder. So let's stop traffic. And we've all, I think, been on the freeway where police have called a break, where they have to slow all of that traffic going down the freeway to bring it to a halt, and that driver not even guessing what was going on. That driver probably thought there was just backed up traffic, you know, as we see in LA during rush hour, and just thought, hey, I'm on the shoulder, I get to keep on going, and bam, that spike strip was right there. Okay, Dennis, as we look at this right here, that bumper hanging by a thread still, would they consider a pit maneuver in something like this? The street seemed to be fairly wide open here on Compton, in Compton right now.
The problem with a pit maneuver, if the individual is armed, then you're going to have shots fired, and it's not worth it. It's worth holding back, letting this car finally become disabled. But to do a pit maneuver, you're putting yourself in such close jeopardy. And if the individual does have a weapon, or if there's additional people in that vehicle that are armed, it's not worth taking a chance of getting shot. So they're going to hold back. This is not a type that just because it has a pit maneuver would be nice, but with the possibility, since it's a 187, a murder suspect, you don't want to take the chance. It's not worth getting shot over.
Did another tire come off? I saw something there as I glanced down for a second, glanced back up, and I saw something in the road.
You see the speed because of the lack of tire.
Wow.
The speed is very, very slow now.
Well, the thing is,
it's just a matter. There we go. Yeah, it was a tire came off. Right tire came off. So now there's the car, instead of 2 tires, it's got instead of 4, it's got 2, and that means the back rim. I think it was a back tire that came off. So now you're going to have the left front and the right rear running on rims.
Well, the thing
there's
is,
nothing except ground into the pavement.
Yeah, the thing is, Dennis, sometimes drivers can try to avoid that spike strip and kind of skirt around it. This one, they got straight on. That driver ran completely over that spike strip. So not a surprise that the back tires or other tires were affected besides that driver's side there. All right, so because of the danger, we're not considering necessarily a pit maneuver because you want to keep the officers back because we're dealing with a murder suspect. So you just kind of wait this one out. It goes until it goes, right?
Well, you see the speeds down to 29 miles an hour, 28 miles an hour, no longer going to excessive speeds. So it's just a matter of time till the car gives out. The rims will then, there'll be nothing left, and you're not going to be able to drive the car when you've got the left front and the right rear, where it's just been ground down by the movement of the vehicle, and then the car's just going to stop. And apparently this individual wants to go the maximum point, and the high speeds are over, that's for sure. And if there's any kind of recklessness, it's not going to happen through the speed of the vehicle, because that's incapable of doing it now. And I'm surprised that the rims are holding up this well, because when it gets down to the rim, goes to the brake, there's nothing left. And as you see, his movement is extremely slow, 8, 10, 11, 12 miles an hour. So it's just a matter of coming to a slow ending. But this gives the officers a chance to take a breath, to say, okay, they're communicating with each other, they're communicating on the frequency, what they're going to do to take this individual into custody. And it's just a matter of minutes, I'd say, until this car comes to a halt, just because it's not going to be able to operate any longer.
So our viewers have an understanding of the community here who may be watching from another state or even out of the country. Compton can be an industrial area. There's a small airport there as well, but you can see a lot of warehouses. Look at the industry right there, the big rigs right there. There are a lot of people who work in that area, but maybe not a lot of traffic on the streets necessarily in certain parts of Compton. It's residential as well, but you can see the industry right here. So it's wide open. It'd be great if this pursuit came to an end, like right in this area where the suspect can't carjack somebody necessarily, can't run into somebody's home, obviously a pedestrian right there. But to paint that picture of Compton, we don't know if the suspect is familiar with this area. South LA, not too far from this area, and that's where we picked up the pursuit. Now, the suspect left the South LA area, was on the freeway down to Wilmington, San Pedro to the far south, and then turned around and came back to this general area. Does that tell you anything, Dennis?
Well, I believe the individual is familiar with this particular part of the Los Angeles region, familiar with that area. You always want to go to a place where you're familiar. So I think there's a familiarity with this particular part of the county of Los Angeles, and there's 88 cities in the county of LA, and it just happens that they're comfortable in this community. But I think going for the public safety, at least right now, you've got light traffic, you've got very few pedestrians, if any. So this is an ideal situation. The speed of 25, 30 miles per hour is reasonable, and it's just a matter until those rims run dry, and then this comes to a stop, and then there's either going to exit the car and surrender, or there's going to be the deployment of personnel, and sometimes it even involves SWAT, where they call SWAT out. So they're not going to run up to that car, open the door, and say, come out. So if this individual doesn't want to comply, they'll have additional resources deployed to make sure it's done properly and safely for everyone. Again, these officers have families. They want to go home at night safe, and we owe them that opportunity to go home safe at night and put the individuals who committed the law violations in custody and in jail.
So really, it's going to be how this driver behaves or performs when this car comes to a stop. Do they surrender? Do they toss those keys out of the car or come out with their hands up? Do they comply, or do they run? I mean, obviously, my guess is the person is not apparently on any kind of drugs or substances, because they were able to drive quite normally, dangerously, but they are able to follow the lines of traffic. Would that be your guess, Dennis? We're not necessarily dealing with somebody impaired?
I don't think they're under the influence of anything. I think they're fine as far as the condition, that they're not under the influence of any kind of drugs or alcohol. At least the driving pattern doesn't show any impairment. So I would say that that's not an issue. But the issue is, if you're dealing with a 187 or a murder suspect, you've got extreme caution, because oftentimes guns are involved, and this individual may be armed. And if the individual opens the door and starts shooting at the officers, then you've got problems to contend with. So there's a lot of factors, but at least we're going slow. The officers are communicating. The partners in each car are communicating. There's a supervisor who's communicating. So everyone's on the same page. And they say as soon as this stops, the individual could jump out and jump into and hijack a car, carjack. Anything's possible, but they're preparing for all this. This gives them the time to come up with a game plan. If he gets off and he wants to take off and run, okay, who's the best runner in the squad here? Who's going to take off and run? Who's going to be the backup? So this gives them a lot of time to get that game plan, how we're going to do it. We're not going to run up on the car. We're going to make sure that it's safe for everyone. And there'll be a supervisor who gives the direct orders what to do. So, car 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what you're going to do. 4, 5, you do this. They're going to have to block traffic. They're going to have to make sure there's no pedestrians around, no bystanders. Again, this individual's possibly a murder suspect, which means either a gun or a knife killed someone. Wanted for that. So that's what you have to anticipate, is they're going to be armed. And that's a key. You don't want them to come out shooting, because that could be a very sad situation where the officers are out in vulnerable position and he comes out, opens the door, and starts shooting. So all those facts have to be considered, and there's a supervisor who's in control of this and communicating, I'm sure, with the watch commander. And the watch commander's watching this on the TV, and the watch commanders obviously all have these widescreen TVs watching these. So there's a lot of communication going on right now, and they're developing a game plan how they're going to take this individual into custody in a safe manner and book him properly as they need to do, and follow the law as prescribed, as they're sworn to protect and serve and abide by the law. And that's what they're going to do.
Well, Dennis, Main Street runs north-south. We're heading northbound towards the 105 freeway in the Compton area. You can see it is much more residential. You can see there's much more traffic there on the streets, even people standing out in the neighborhood. They have no idea what kind of pursuit this is. It's not necessarily a joyride. It's not a stolen car. It's a murder suspect that detectives were investigating. Dennis, that was your information. So this driver, not willing to give up at all. Would it behoove the driver to try to get on any freeway now coming close to the 105?
Well, you see, the freeway is going to be highly congested now. The freeway, I think, would be a bad move, because all you're going to find is a gridlock situation. This is the commuter hour. Between 4:30 and 6 o'clock, you're going to find a lot of people leaving work. This particular area seems to be conducive for the individual's pleasure to drive, and at the same time, you're not putting in danger a lot of people, because you don't have any schools in that immediate vicinity. You don't have young children. And all those hazards that people don't even think about, that the officers have to consider when they're going to make the stop and take this individual into custody. You want to protect the general public. That's the number one priority, and take this individual in custody. You want to go home safely with your partner, and you want to put this individual where they belong, behind bars, in the Gray Bar Hotel known as the jail. So it's a pretty simple policy that they follow. Do it in a safe manner, make sure no one gets hurt, and you do the lawful arrest in a lawful manner, and you put the handcuffs and put him in the car, and he goes to jail. If he needs medical treatment, they get an MT at the hospital by the doctor. So it's all really cut down in layers of how you're supposed to handle it. Once this comes to a stop, then that'll all kick in, and there'll be a supervisor at the scene to make sure that everything's done properly, that officers' tempers are controlled, that they don't do anything they're not supposed to do. And again, remember, they're all wearing body cams, so this is all being photographed as it's continuing. The watch commander's seeing it in the office. All different divisions are watching it on the broadcast. They're listening to the radio broadcast. So it's all done in a systematic manner. They're trained to do this. They're experienced. Again, we have more than sufficient officers to take this individual, no matter what type of murder they committed. If in fact it's the 187 suspect they're looking for, in a safe manner. And this individual ultimately will get booked, and this will just be additional charges in addition to whatever the warrant's for. This will be additional charges that will be lodged against this individual when it goes to court before the judge when they get arraigned.
Well, we're watching this driver, I almost say, limp along, given that we've seen this driver go at speeds of 100 miles per hour, just flying down the freeway and doing a lot of evasive moves on surface streets, despite red lights, despite other cars going in wrong directions as well. And as we see this here, you can see people along the street. Some are bringing out their cell phones. Perhaps they're watching this on the web, or perhaps they're just watching a car come down their street, seeing a lot of police cars behind it. They know something's not right, something's up, could be a pursuit, but a lot of people there with their cell phones out. That driver there making moves to get around traffic. Dennis, you mentioned, quote, the Gray Bar Hotel, which is jail. Oh, look at those people in the street trying to get video. That's dangerous.
Well, remember, there's a parade of black and whites with the sirens.
Yeah.
All the sirens are blaring, too, so it's waking up the neighborhood, that's for sure.
Dennis, I get back to the Gray Bar Hotel jail. Do you get a sense that this person perhaps has some kind of record, that perhaps they have been through this before? Obviously, a murder suspect we're dealing with. Do you get a sense that they perhaps have been arrested before?
Well, my best guess would be they have been arrested for serious charges. They may have done time in state prison. Obviously, it's not a comfortable place to be. And I think with that experience, they don't want to go back. And while they're doing this display of very slow speeds, they're not going to get too far at 20, 25 miles an hour with an army of officers behind you. It's just a matter that whatever they've done in their past is probably coming up to their mind. Do I want to do that again? And if it is a 187 suspect, a murder suspect, there's a grieving family.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Who was killed. So you've got to think about the justice. The justice system is that where's justice if this person has done that and they get away with it? Because there's a grieving family that we have to consider. What about them? And what about the individual who is the actual victim of the murder? If, in fact, this is all what we suspect it to be, justice for that individual. So there's not a lot of mercy for the individual who's fleeing now, as we see this low parade of the suspect in the police units. Most of it is the criminal justice system. Maybe it didn't do its job last time. Maybe it'll work this time so we don't have more victims that end up being victimized by individuals who have no concern about their health or safety.
Well, as we're watching this here, I too started to think about that there is a victim here. If you've got a murder suspect, then there is a victim. And sometimes you look at a police pursuit, they're so routine here in Southern California. There can be a comical aspect to some of them and some of the moves. Obviously dangerous. It can be almost like a movie. But as we think about that and what you just mentioned there is a victim here. We don't know the details of the murder suspect police were pursuing. Obviously, if this is their guy or girl, that person's not wanting to stop. And if it's not, this person is sure ditching out on police for some reason.
And then the family of the victim who was involved in the murder. I mean, there's a lot of issues that come upon the situation where someone commits a vicious crime of murder. The family, the aunts, the uncles, the children. I mean, there's a lot of people that are impacted. One murder, there's a lot of people that are impacted, directly impacted by that murder. People die of natural causes. That's very tragic. But when it's a murder, that's not natural causes. And whether it's through a knife or a gun or whatever the case may be, there's a grieving family, and they want to see justice. And if justice doesn't prevail, you end up with less than a civilized society. So the people who are victims of this particular situation, if this all pans out as we suspect, if this individual didn't do anything, why would they continue with this pursuit? Why wouldn't they just stop and surrender and, explain it to the officers? The fact, consciousness of guilt is part of this. You're guilty, so you're going to do everything you can to try and get away. Obviously, the run is going to come to an end real quick, because you're not going to get too far at 20-plus miles an hour with an army of officers and helicopters and news people over you. It's just not going to happen. But the longer they drag it on, people are looking and watching and looking. But you and I have covered these many, many times. This isn't the first time we've seen something like this. And this is a situation that impacts a lot of people, the family, the aunts, the uncles, the classmates. There's just a tremendous amount of impact when someone is the victim of a serious crime. And the most serious we have is murder.
Well, as you know, we cover it every single day. loss of life. And it's, oh wait, another tire. That's where we saw the video of that other tire that went off. So that big picture on your screen there, that was in the Compton area. That's where tire number 2 came off on the right side. There you go. So that proves, that proves, Dennis, that that spike strip was very effective on the freeway. It got that driver's left side. It got something on the passenger side. That's what you want from your spike strip. But an example right here, that a spike strip doesn't mean a car comes to a stop. This pursuit has been going on now in the southeast Los Angeles area, where I should note we picked up this pursuit when we first got on it for Fox 11 Plus here. So, Dennis, this driver is now back to where the pursuit started, at least on air for us here. What does that tell you?
Well, I guess we're going in circles. That's what it says. We're just going around. Familiar with this area of some degree. Feels comfortable in this area, and we'll drive that car as we see now until it just completes driving when the engine either shuts down, Dennis, or you're stuck with the rims.
I'm going to jump in here as we look at the video of how dangerous this pursuit was on the surface streets in South Los Angeles earlier this afternoon. Look at the moves of this driver. Look at the person in the wheelchair there in the crosswalk. That driver, you can see the window appears to be down there. Again, we're looking here at a murder suspect pursuit. LAPD detectives were on this one. Look at the driver goes through the gas station. We have pedestrians through the traffic there. We saw that driver run several red lights, making very dangerous moves to get away. And that, Dennis, sends a clear message to police that they're dealing with somebody who's not willing to comply, not willing to give up, and going to take very dangerous moves to get away.
Absolutely. Whatever they believe will get them out of the situation, they will do. Whatever it means, running over a pedestrian, doing whatever the case may be, they have total, complete disregard for everyone. And that's a sad commentary on a human being that is in a deadly vehicle, because that vehicle is obviously going to kill people if you don't control it properly. Just no consideration whatsoever. And this is the sad commentary when people are breaking the law. The most heinous is of murder. But you see the number of officers, the number of resources that are deployed to this. And if you don't have sufficient resources and he comes out shooting, we don't want to lose any more officers. And I've been to many police funerals. Their lives are very precious, and we need to maintain their safety and their security. So the general public's in jeopardy. The officers are in jeopardy. Well, thank goodness we've got technology. We got the helicopter. I know there's some critics about the noise of the helicopter. Without a helicopter in situations like this, you would really be desperate to try and keep up with the individual.
I wanted to paint a picture of what the video we were just showing our viewers, and that was the driver going the wrong way, trying to loop around. The driver went 110 southbound for a number of miles, ending up in the San Pedro, then Wilmington area, looped around there going the wrong way and got back on the 110 northbound to then end up on surface streets eventually after being on the freeway. So we've been pursuing this, or following this pursuit since I think before 4 o'clock or right about that time, give or take. And we've seen this driver return to the South LA area. Police very effective with that spike strip on the freeway, damaging those tires, but that driver still going and going. The pursuit still on.
Well, they're deploying all the resources they have. They can't basically ram the car with the police vehicle, because if the individual does have a weapon, then they're direct line of fire to the officers in the police vehicle. So you can't do that. They've really done everything they can logically, reasonably do.
Yeah, Dennis just saw that spike strip video again. Impressive. Police stopped the traffic, deployed that spike strip as that driver was on the shoulder, it appears, of the freeway. There you go, one more time. Traffic stopped. There you go, spike strip. Okay, and they got that driver's side tire, and then we saw later on the passenger side tire comes off. So that driver now riding on the rims there in South LA. We're watching more footage here of this pursuit to show you how their tire right there on the driver's side came off. This is earlier video. You saw that bumper was hit when that driver went the wrong way, and that's why that bumper started coming off. started, I say, because it's still hanging on there. And there you saw that driver's tire on the passenger side come off. So that's what we're dealing with at this hour as we're coming up on 5 p.m., the heart of rush hour in Southern California. In Compton, that driver it's got to be a very uncomfortable ride. Dennis Zine, I'll bring you back in here. For that driver riding on rims now, how does that feel to drive a car like that?
I've never done that, but I'm sure it's not very comfortable. I don't know what kind of seat you'd have to make it comfortable, but when you're driving on rims, we know that there's at least 2, if not 3, driving on rims. There may be 1 tire left, but those rims will give out eventually. It's grinding into that asphalt, the cement on the roadway. You got the cement, you got the asphalt. It's going to grind down where it won't move anymore, and then it starts to catch fire. I've seen that happen when the actual rim will catch fire because of the friction between that and the roadway. So what we're seeing now is a repeat, I believe, of some of the other shots that we've shown, and it's just a continuation of just wandering through at a very slow speed. But again, they're not going to do a pit maneuver, which seems, well, just a pit maneuver, bring it to a stop. If he has a gun, which is very possible, then you open fire, and officers, it's not worth their jeopardy to have that happen. So this will continue, as I said, until that car gives out. He's not going to surrender. The car is going to give out. And then whether he gets out of the car or if they have to use resources to get him out, additional personnel, that'll be the case. So we'll have to see when that comes to pass. But it should be pretty quick.
Dennis, you said that a while ago.
I know, but those rims, I can't believe these rims are holding up this well, because the rims finally give out. I mean, they're grinding down. It's grinding down, and eventually they're not going to be able to go. They'll just lock down. There's probably a dozen, I'd say there's probably a dozen police cars in this pursuit, at least a dozen.
Well, one of the videos that we were showing our viewers as to how this pursuit's been happening throughout time here is we saw a lot of pedestrians, people on the streets there on the sidewalks with their cell phones out, documenting video of this. That's because this pursuit became a very slow speed pursuit. You are standing perhaps on the street corner for whatever reason, and you see all of these police cars coming your way. You know something is up. We are in a day and age where people roll with their cell phones and post on their social. You can look at the left-hand side right there. People right there taking video. I mean, it's not every day that a pursuit comes your way and you can watch it go by. It's kind of like, oh, wow, there goes a pursuit.
Multiple times.
Yeah, go ahead.
Multiple times it's going by the same neighborhoods that kind of like that neighborhood down in San Pedro in Harbor Division. This is all Harbor Divisions, I understand.
Southeast LA.
Southwest. Southeast.
Yeah.
Okay. We were further south, but I guess he moved up a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, Florence. Wait, South Main at Florence?
Main and 70th now. You saw somebody there on one of those little motorbikes. You know, you have to wonder if this driver, because we picked up this pursuit in Southeast LA, we're back now in Southeast LA, are they on the phone with somebody they know? Are they talking to people in the neighborhood? Are they driving by their home? And sometimes you have that where police encounter residents who come out who know this person that police have been chasing, and that's a whole different crowd dynamic.
That's it. That's right. And you want to get that individual into custody and away from there as quickly as possible. You don't want to get that neighborhood up in arms about it. That doesn't create anything except more problems. But they do have sufficient units, if those are all the Harbor units, or maybe Southwest, Southeast units that respond to this, but primarily Harbor Division. And each division has a certain number of black and whites assigned per watch. It seems that there's a whole lot of black and whites down there that they've got to be from some other divisions in addition to Harbor Division, Southeast, Southwest Harbor, in the southern part of the city.
So a wider shot here of the neighborhood goes to show you how residential this area is, and you fear for the safety of every single resident when a pursuit comes to an end, because we have seen suspects run. We have seen suspects run into someone's house. Right now, this driver is just driving and no sign. You know, sometimes we see, Dennis, they pretend to pull over, they start to pull over, they attempt to pull over, they even open their car door, they jump back in. This driver has made no signs that he or she is going to stop yet. No even attempt to stop?
They play the cat and mouse game. This is not playing cat and mouse, just continuing, not stopping, not complying, just continuing whatever speed. And the speed right now, obviously, is extremely slow because of those rims. You're running on rims. But I'd like to get a count, if we can get a count of how many black and whites are in this pursuit from the beginning to the end. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not more than 12.
Well, you think of the manpower, the taxpayer dollars, the cost to citizens.
Oh, yeah.
And
but
the time they're not on the call, right?
And is there more than one suspect in that car? There's all these possibilities. Is there more than one? The weapons, the automatic weapons? You know, you've got to have more than two. Normally it's the primary and the secondary, and then a supervisor. But in this case, we have basically a whole watch. But they may be from adjoining divisions. They may not all be from one division. They may be from different divisions in South Bureau.
And CHP hasn't been on this one at all? It's been LAPD the whole time on the freeway?
I haven't seen CHP engaged at all.
Is that because of the nature of the want? Murder suspect?
No, just necessarily LAPD started it, and LAPD had enough resources. The CHP will do it from time to time. I think they're black and whites. I think they've lost a few along the way. They may have been, they've been ordered to just continue this, because I think there were 12 at one time. They're down to like 6 or 7 now. They don't want it to be a parade. It's not to be a parade. It's to be very serious to take him into custody. But you know, this individual obviously not complying. Obviously doesn't care. Obviously, if they've been through the criminal justice system, been to jail, they don't care. You know, it's like you have a spoiled child that just doesn't want to do the homework and doesn't want to go to bed. It's just like, okay, what are you gonna do to me? What are you gonna do to me? That's exactly what this individual is acting like. Doesn't care.
We say spoiled child, but I'm thinking murder suspect. This could be, you know, a lifetime behind bars, a lifetime incarcerated, depending on the crime, and if this is indeed the suspect. So, bars, a lifetime incarcerated, depending on the crime, and if this is indeed the suspect. So, we are just watching this one play out with hopes that it will come to an end soon, with hopes that it will be a safe ending, with hopes this driver will just eventually pull over and give up, posing no threat to officers or civilians there on the street. Rush hour traffic there, and that driver trying to wedge through the red light. Oh boy, that is really dangerous. Those cars have no idea this car is trying to sneak through.
Well, and you can see the speed of that car is extremely, maybe 20 miles an hour, maybe 20. It doesn't care, you know, going through the red light, it doesn't care. And if someone's not paying attention, they might get broadsided. And a bicycle, a motorcycle rider.
Dennis,
there's just a lot of factors that come into play here.
In your decades of law enforcement, would you say in your decades of law enforcement, would you say there's a pursuit every day in Southern California?
Yeah, more than one.
Really?
When you think of the 88 cities in LA County, everything from Los Angeles, you know, the different departments, Beverly Hills, Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, Hawthorne. I mean, there's 88 cities. There's a ton of police departments. They don't all get the coverage, but obviously CHP gets a lot of coverage, LA gets a lot of coverage, sheriffs get a lot of coverage. But they're looking for these violent criminals who committed heinous crimes. And in this particular case, if you're dealing with a murder suspect, how many victims were murdered by this alleged individual, the suspect, I should say? We can't say they're guilty because that's the judge, the jury, the court. We can just speculate, say what they're wanted for, what the suspicion is. But after that, it goes into a different level of review. And, you know, we don't know sometimes the outcome, but we see it at this stage. And then we'll see an individual taken into custody, gets handcuffed, goes away in a police car. And that's the last you hear about it. You may read it in the paper in a couple weeks, but most people, that's it. It was just a feature, and that was it.
Well, Dennis,
Code 4.
We are looking at a wide shot of Los Angeles, southeast LA. We are going to end our coverage shortly here at Fox 11 Plus and go over to Fox 11 News at 5 p.m. A lot of news to cover today, as you might imagine. Right here, I'm not sure if the chopper pulled away because of jurisdiction issues, the airport, et cetera, or if because of the top of the hour, stations are gearing up to cover other news, the bulk of the day's news. But you're looking at Southern California, wide open freeways there on this rush hour time coming up on 5 p.m. where police are looking for a murder suspect. They do have body cameras. We'll keep a watch on this. Thanks, Dennis, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Fox 11 with some of their coverage.
Breaking
we
news.
have been. It looks like we had a little bit of an audio interruption there, but I'm Austin Westfall. I'll be on the desk with you for the next few hours as we cover the nation and the world's top headlines. Unfortunately, that's how these police chases go sometimes. Sometimes they don't come to a resolution. That seems to be the case here. If Fox 11 does get back over that chase, we'll try and pick it back up live. For now, it does appear that we've lost track of the suspect. Again, if there's any updates through the news wires or through Fox LA's news wires, we'll bring you any updates as soon as we see anything. By the way, I still have the live feed in front of me. They have left the chase on their air. What we were just listening to was Fox 11's newscast. I have the raw chopper feed as they appear to be searching for this suspect. And you know what? It looks like they have found the suspect. There we go. So you know what? We're going to keep this going here on LiveNOW. Again, most of what we know so far is what's been on the title on your screen. This is a potential murder suspect that police have been chasing now for at least over an hour. I haven't myself watched the entire thing, but I know that we've been above this thing for it feels like at least an hour to this point. This vehicle has been driving at a moderate pace for the most part. We've seen this vehicle with a damaged bumper traversing city streets. You can see the damage to, and there we see making contact with the curb. This driver driving again erratically. This is Southeast LA. This possible murder suspect in Los Angeles has not been driving too quickly, but we've noticed that this suspect has been driving erratically at times, running red lights. That is the case sometimes. Freeways, overpasses, they'll get in the way of some of these chases. We're not exactly sure why the feed is dropping off on us right now. I'll stick with this for a second in case it picks itself back up. It is very possible that we've lost our feed there with the chopper. So again, that's what happens with these police pursuits sometimes. It's possible that the feed will return. For now, we're seeing nothing but blackness. So if the connection reestablishes itself, or if I see that Fox 11 Los Angeles gets back above this chase, we'll bring it to you. Guess what just happened? Looks like we did just get the feed reconnected. We apologize for that. These things do happen on live television. We're at the mercy of the transmitters aboard this chopper. I myself do not have direct contact with the pilot. Not exactly sure why the chopper had backed off of this pursuit for some time there. Sometimes there's air restrictions. Sometimes there's airports nearby that restrict air traffic. As the suspect makes a right turn, their bumper still hanging off the tail there. We see at least one person in the driver's seat. It is unclear to me whether or not there could be anybody in the back seat. This is a possible murder suspect being chased in now southeast Los Angeles. Speeds of about 30 miles per hour. You just saw him driving into oncoming traffic for a moment there. So we're hearing that Fox 11 Los Angeles is back above this with their coverage. Their anchors calling this chase. Let's listen in. They might know more than we do.
Wrong way in the San Pedro area and looping around to get back onto the freeway. The bumper hanging by a thread this whole time on freeways and surface streets. But what you can't really tell here is that a spike strip was deployed on the freeway and 2 tires are missing. Look at the driver's side tire right on the rim there, and that's a good look at the driver, a good look right there at that driver. There's also a tire missing on the passenger side. So while the pursuit now is about 30 miles per hour in Southeast LA, at times it went up to 100 miles per hour on the freeway. The driver was going very dangerously through neighborhoods, running through red lights, driving through crosswalks where you had pedestrians in the crosswalk. Let's see this one right here, weaving through traffic to try to get away. Again, this is a murder suspect call on this one. According to our police expert, Dennis Zine, detectives were investigating this one. The driver somehow decided to flee, and then black and whites were called. So it wasn't a crime scene at the moment, I believe. Detectives were investigating, and they are saying they are looking for a murder suspect. Now, this car has been going and going with tires missing. You would think that a spike strip would bring a pursuit to an end. Yeah, nope, but it is much more slowed. We've been in Southeast LA for at least 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. Again, that driver making his way from San Pedro and Wilmington to the south on the freeway, getting off in the Compton area and on surface streets, taking Main all the way up to get back to Southeast LA, and apparently feeling a little more comfortable in Southeast LA. That driver's staying there. LAPD is on this one. It'd be great to show you some of the videos. You could see really how dangerous this pursuit was as we monitored it around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And you really saw that this driver was going to do everything he could to get away from police. No attempt to pull the car over. Okay, right here, this is the wrong way. This is the wrong way. Watch here. Not so bad here, but wait until you see these semis. He's going to come up on some semis. Whoa, dangerous. He's going to clip a truck in a minute. Stand by for that. Here we go. Here we go. There comes traffic. There's that truck. Watch the bumper. Watch the bumper. And there you go. That's the bump right there. Eventually, that bumper kind of peeled off and has been dangling ever since. The driver now. Okay, watch for the spike strip. Watch there. Bam, right there, spike strip. What police did is they stopped traffic. They got a perspective of the driver and his pattern, stopped all of that traffic, were able to deploy that spike strip, and there you see. Oh, yeah, looks like we just live right here saw the tail end of a spike strip being deployed. That driver was able to go around the spike strip, weave around it. So it's amazing that they got him there on the freeway. He probably thought that traffic was just stopped because of rush hour and was speeding down, I believe, the shoulder of the road, and they had that spike strip out there. No other cars affected. They got him, but as you can see, that car can still go on those rims. It's a smaller car, more of a lightweight car. Not sure how much gas is in there. Could go for a very long time. No sign at all of that driver attempting to pull over, thinking about pulling over. Sometimes we see drivers will stop, start again, stop, even open their door, start again. Some will even get out of the car and get back in and start again. None of that. This driver has been going and going. And not sure if they're just trying to ride out the tail end of their freedom, given that it's a murder suspect, or they actually think they're going to try to get away. This is the Southeast area. We have LAPD on this one. Our big hope is that nobody's hurt, that this driver doesn't try to carjack somebody else or make a run for it into a home or a business. Obviously, police are going to have to keep a little bit of a distance because it's a murder suspect. They can't necessarily run up on this suspect. We don't know if this person has a weapon or not. So here you have yet another pursuit in Southern California. For anybody watching here, I am surprised if you're watching from, say, out of state or out of the country, how open the road is right here. This is the heart of rush hour traffic in Southern California, and often we see our streets backed up bumper to bumper. But you can see a lot of people there on the streets. This is a relatively slow speed now because of the damage to the car. And look at the people out there. And oh wow, that's some erratic driving. Was that a change in direction, or is the car actually, is he not able to control the car? Okay, we're hearing somebody threw something in the road, so not sure if that driver tried to avoid that or tried to go down that street realizing, oh, wait a minute, there's commotion here, let me not go that way, and corrected or overcorrected. But here we are now. Again, this is a very residential area, and that's my concern at this hour. Children who are out of school, it's still light out, people walking their dog, you know, homeowners who might not have their door locked because it's daylight out. Anyway, Fox 11 is covering this the best we can. Sometimes we have flight restrictions that have to make us pull out wider. We are keeping a watch, though, as best we can with, obviously, the police helicopter is also in the sky, along with the Skyfox helicopter. You also have the police vehicles, a number of them trailing this car, so it'll be easy for us probably to pick up this pursuit should we have to pull wide for whatever reason. Here is a look at some of the video of the people that we've seen come out or be on the streets and witness a pursuit in their neighborhood. It's not every day you see a car flying down the road with a number of police cars behind it. I always tell people it can be dangerous. We're dealing, like I said, with a murder suspect who may have nothing to lose, who could take a hostage, who does have a weapon. To what lengths are they willing to try to get away? So obviously those people were probably just doing their thing, living their lives, and saw a police pursuit coming their way and decided, as we do with our cell phones, to roll video. All right, looks like that suspect there ran a red light. Not a lot of traffic here at this hour, which can be surprising as we think of 5 p.m. But again, no signs of slowing or pulling over. Okay, whoa, this could be dangerous. This driver doesn't stop for cars going the opposite direction. So here we go. Interesting traffic there, huh? All right, well, as we continue to pursue this, it's been a long pursuit. Let's bring in our other police specialist, Tim Lynn, who's going to join us now and pick up our coverage. Tim, you think of murder suspect here, no sign of stopping. What are your thoughts here?
I've been watching this since it first came into the area, and it's just been unreal that they've been following this vehicle that is disabled as it is. They haven't gone up and done the pit maneuver. Now, I don't have all the information that you probably have, Christine, but it's, you know, if it's an armed suspect, that's why they're not getting up and pitting it. But there's other things they can do. Now, I've seen Metro come in with their armored car and basically just push them into the curb and pin them in on a situation like this. But there's some reason why they're just letting this car roam and not actually being more aggressive, especially a murder suspect in a situation like this. So, but, you know, as we always talk about, you know, on these pursuits, we don't have all the information, and, you know, the PD does, and so they're reacting to the information they have. And unfortunately, the visuals we have here is because of the LAX airspace, and once he stays in there, area just east of the 110 and north of the 105, it's going to be tough for the helicopter to get close enough to see it. But this guy is really giving it for all it's worth with his car. No front tires on it, and you see sparks coming out every once in a while as that caliper hits the ground. This is unbelievable that it's gone on this long.
You make a valid point. We don't know what police know, and apparently they were investigating this murder suspect. They may know exactly who they're dealing with, and they may know of a weapon possibly on board or not. But you're right, we've been following this in the South LA, Southeast LA area for some time. You would think that police have a pretty good perspective of the neighborhood. Oh, wait, right there, Tim, we're looking at video where somebody threw something into the street. That driver then curved around it or not. We thought maybe the car was going out of control. Looks to me like, okay, it's in the street there, bam, right there. The driver either runs over it or tries to get around it, decides to maybe go left. sparks there, maybe go back on straight. Anyway, that was a moment. Let's just say it was a moment in a pursuit that's been kind of just straight down the street for a long period of time.
Well, the time I've been watching it here, I've seen 3 spike strips thrown out in this area trying to get it. The driver, even without front tires, were able to maneuver around the spike strips. And you see those weaving around it. He's having a tough time driving it, but even with the car disabled as much as it is, he's still getting around the spike strips and trying to evade and stay moving, because once they get this car stopped, it's going to be tougher for this car to start moving again because of the lack of grip from those rims on the ground. But, you know, all we're going to see is just basically right now little shots of him up between the buildings. And because of the distance, you see he's still moving along and working away. But LAPD doing everything they can right now to try to take out those other 2 tires, the 2 back ones, to where they can get this car, you know, totally disabled. But just watching the I want to say body language or the activity of the officers, not coming in for a pit maneuver, not coming in trying to spin this car out and jam it into a curb. There's something else going on here that they know, and more than likely they know this suspect is armed, because that's the only reason why I, in my experience, would stay far back and stay away from him, because other than that, there's no reason to let this go on and endanger other people on the streets here, because he's in a very congested area of the South LA area here, because the streets are small. As he works his way through, there's lots of pedestrians, lots of cross traffic, and small intersections that he's maneuvering through. And there's other things they have to keep in mind. There's the officer who's following and the supervisor who's on scene taking control. Do they want to really get this suspect stopped to where you see a group of people on the side of the road who are just kind of watching this go by? But they don't want to stop him in an area to where if this guy is armed or this driver is armed, what's going to happen at the end? Is he just going to bail out? Is the driver just going to bail out and start shooting? Is there going to be gunfire? Is there going to be some type of other thing going on? But you see here just forcing along the side here on the wrong side of the street, and then slowly maneuvering here on this left-hand turn through there. But what this does now, with all these police cars going through the neighborhood, going around in circles, lots of people are going to come out and start watching from the street, getting out on the street, watching it go by. And that's the last thing the police department needs, is to start building a crowd through the area, to where now you have to take care of the crowd when this comes to a stop, and then also protect yourself from what may come when this suspect comes to an end. But once again, I'm really feeling that there is information about weapons in that car, because LAPD right now has perfect time to go in and spin it around, especially right here on Figueroa, where it's so big and so wide. It'd be easy to get it turned around without hitting things. Here comes a spike strip.
Whoa. Oh,
they're trying, see?
That driver, darn.
And yeah, and you know, that right there just takes away all my suspicion of an armed a weapon in a car, because you just had 3 to 4 officers totally exposed to this car and exposed to the driver. So to me, you wouldn't have officers out there standing in the open throwing spike strips if you thought for a minute that they were armed. But you can see here just the car blocking them off and going around. And we had earlier another car that was following in, and they were worried. We were hearing that that car was involved in the pursuit somehow, to where we've seen before where another vehicle will come up and then the suspect will jump out and get into the car and speed away. So they've got to keep that in mind. And they were talking about, it was an Audi that we heard, and I believe they've taken care of that, because the trail cars should be able to stop that car and get it out of the way. But here, look at the traffic. Look at all the people.
Look at the bumper.
Out here. Yeah.
Look at the bumper now. It's now, I said hanging by a thread before. Now this is by one thread. You know, and that could be a danger for other motorists. I've come across something like that in the middle of the road, where you come to a screeching halt to kind of, you know, not crash into it, and then you have other cars behind you who have no idea why you've come to a screeching halt. And then you have the officers there behind it as well. At least it's not the high speeds we saw on the freeway with that bumper hanging there. You make some interesting points as we watch this one here, and the point I'm thinking that stands out to me is this driver has gone in a circle, it's so to speak, in the southeast South LA area, And you're right. Is there going to be a buddy who pulls up and says, hey, let me help you out, jump in the car, let's go? Does somebody else get involved? That's the scary part about being in the same area. You get a pattern going here.
Right. And also you have the other drivers who don't know what's going on, and they have this guy going along, and you're just listening to the radio, driving home, and all of a sudden this person stops, gets out, yanks you out of your car, and takes your car from you. We've seen that happen many times before. So a lot of things that can happen during this pursuit, and that's what the officers have to flex to. And you have to be flexible when these things come to an end, because you don't know what's going to happen when it does stop. So you have to be prepared for gunfire. You have to be prepared for a foot pursuit. You have to be prepared for anything. But yeah, it gets down to this area. We'll see if it pops out over here on Main Street, but it may. Well, I'm trying to look here to see if it's coming to an end, but it's. This has been really tough on the photographer aboard Sky Fox to stay with us from being so far away. But the reason is LAX, or the LA Air Traffic Control, will not let media in over the pursuit in what they call the surface area or the approach area for LAX. So they have to stay south of the 105 and look up into the area to stay with it. So right now we're searching.
Let me paint that picture for any viewers who might be watching who are not familiar with Los Angeles or the LA area. We do have flight restrictions in the LAX area in which local media cannot fly, as you might imagine, in the path of airliners coming in or going. So that makes us have to fly that much further back. My question for you, Tim, having been in police work for so long, can an LAPD chopper fly within LAX airspace?
Yes, they can, and they make special provisions for that. And some of the reason is because it's a very compact area. It's dangerous to get too many helicopters into that small airspace, and to be able to maintain separation between the helicopters and the jets that are flying overhead. So the LAPD is able to fly over the pursuit and stay with it just as they need, because there's just one helicopter in that 900-foot very compact area. But looking at the way the officers are setting up a perimeter here, I got a feeling this has come to an end and it's gone to foot, because you have officers taking up corners at different points here along 92nd Street and Main Street. You see now officers up here blocking off traffic, and if we, as they pan to the left, you'll maybe see another perimeter unit set up. But just seeing the couple units that I've noticed, and there's no more movement of that car, more likely this has gone to a foot chase, and they're going to have to do what they call a perimeter to seal off this area and try to contain the suspect and to take him into custody. So right now it's looks
Tim,
like it may have come to an end.
Yeah, that's good wisdom there on your part. We thank you for that. And you might have this insight as well, but we are getting confirmation from Fox 11 sources that SWAT has been called in, LAPD SWAT. So who knows if there was some kind of action that we haven't witnessed yet, or they were coming in as the next move, or this did come to an end, or perhaps the perimeter was set up. He's boxed in. Okay, so we're hearing he is boxed in at Main Street and 92nd. So boxed in, what does that mean? Is the person still in their vehicle? Are they out of their vehicle? Obviously, they can't go too much further now, and that's the benefit, Tim, of this driver going in the same area.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. They say surrendering.
Yeah, we just got word. He is surrendering. Okay, there you have the best shot we can give you, given this LAX airspace, of police with their guns drawn. We have eyes and ears that are informing Fox 11 a little more information there on the ground. Tim, jump in if you know more than I do, but we are told he is surrendering. You can see the car right there. Obviously, police, look at the people that live there. Yeah. Oh, that's scary. Tim, thoughts real quick.
Yeah, it's people like that just come out that don't even think about what the harm could be. That, yeah, more than likely they may have put a car across that street and stopped him, and then the other cars came in and blocked him in, and then he was in the car in a standoff position. But luckily, he's doing the right thing and giving up, or he or she is giving up this chase. So came to a peaceful end here.
Tim, right there. I'm going to jump in here. Yeah, there you see police have moved in. You see the suspect there with his hands on his head there for a minute. And there you go. Police are moving in. They're putting the cuffs on him right now. It doesn't appear there's anybody else in that vehicle. But finally, the suspect was brought to a stop by being boxed in, by going in the same area, give or take, here in Southeast LA for a good 20, maybe 30 minutes. And that's how this pursuit came to an end. Thankfully, nobody hurt here in these homes. The suspect didn't make a run for it into somebody's yard. And it looks like they were able to bring this to a close, Tim, the way we want it to end. Police officers going home, nobody hurt.
That's correct. That's exactly how they want to end these things.
So what do you make of the way this one ended? We've covered so many pursuits. You had spike strips. You had the outcome here where he was boxed in.
Yeah, there's, you have, like I was going through you flex with what's going on. If an opportunity presents itself to where they can park a car across the street and get out and leave it, and if that driver goes down, now he's blocked in. I mean, that's a good move to do that. There's spike strips. They kept doing that. Obviously, they weren't going for the pit maneuver, but you do what you have to do to get the car stopped, and hopefully, in a situation like this, the car just ran out of the ability to move once they got it stopped, and then they had the suspect contained. So normally in these situations, they're not allowed to do roadblocks. But in this type of pursuit with a slow speed like this, where the risk of collision is very minimal, yeah, just blocking a street with a police car and then getting out of that police car and leaving it there just to use it as a roadblock. And when the suspect came down, you see that car across the alley there. More than likely it was a kind of quick thinking of the supervisor on scene to make that move to get it to stop in that area, because once he was doing those circles and staying on the same streets around 92nd, 91st, it made it a little bit easier. So luckily the police won out on this one, got it stopped without incident, and nobody hurt.
Tim, thank you so much for your coverage, perspective, and insight. We appreciate you very much. We have a busy news day. We're going to move on now to other news. We're going to talk now about the...
All right. Fox 11 Los Angeles, bringing us the conclusion of a chase of a murder suspect. It appeared the suspect surrendering, so we did get a conclusion there, as you guys might have been watching. Sometimes we don't get conclusions on these chases, so thankfully it appeared that one wrapping up there after a pretty dangerous pursuit making its way through freeways and surface streets in Southern California.